So first today we have a band.dom, Maddie. She's a tattoo apprentice. So this will be interesting to cover someone at this level of experience. So far we've been critiquing kind of working artists of multi-years. So let's see. It seems from her Instagram right now, she is mostly posting tattoo designs, little stuff, kind of things that are appropriate for kind of where she is currently with tattooing, I'm assuming, because I don't see any tattoos actually. Uh, so that seems appropriate. One thing with her Instagram account, I have no idea where she's from or where she's tattooing at, or if she started or anything like that. So it'd be good to have that kind of information in the profile. All the designs, like the level that she's doing stuff, is appropriate for if she was starting a tattoo now. But I would like to see her doing maybe at least a third of her designs, kind of looking towards the next step once she's kind of mastered these little designs like this. That way she can start working out compositional problems ahead of time before she actually gets to a point where she's tattooing those, because composition and design ends up quite a bit different at larger scales when you get into like half a body part, stuff that would go on to say like half a forearm, even if it's not meant to be like a sleeve but just meant to be something larger. So I'd like to see that in addition to a lot of stuff that she kind of has ready to go now, because it seems like this is kind of something to promote people to get tattooed by her soon whenever she starts tattooing, if she's going, if whenever she starts tattooing, if she hasn't already. Okay, so I'm stumbling over my words. Please excuse me. One thing also, if you look down, let me get a nice color here. You look down in this area. Sorry. Okay. Look down in this area. She's done some designs that are on kind of a skin tone versus these designs up here that are done white. I personally prefer the skin tone, and I would suggest that she keeps doing that. So yeah. Oops. Adjust my color there. So yeah, I think that these look better in regards to getting across the idea of these being used as tattoo designs. Just a personal preference. Okay, so first design is this cat. This thing is super cute. I love it. I think the drawing is great. In regards to how it's been colored and everything like that, my biggest thing that sits out is you kind of lost the eye outline here. So what I want to do, probably the way that I would approach it, is to leave kind of a little bit of open skin. Kind of around these eyes, so we don't actually shade all the way up to that. So that fits as our eyes. It gives us something that we're able to see this whole shape. And then the black that you have up in this area of the ears, I feel like you're better served by just taking that all the way to black. mainly because having that highlight and then having this dark area right in here, they both kind of fight against each other. So that I would probably, that black, I would not take as dark. I just more take this to like kind of a medium gray along this area, because I don't think that that really needs that. Or you could just leave this whole area, this area right here, completely open if you wanted to, and then you could you could shade the very tips of these little puffs. Those are two different options. I'm going to go with the way that I did it right here. Next thing, I would suggest this little tongue you got going on here, making this a little larger than what you have going on. This is a big thing to keep in mind when it comes to just tattoo design in general, is generally you kind of have to push elements in a tattoo, especially if you're working more towards traditional kind of work. That might be a little bit too big. Let's do this again. Okay, there we go. So that each element that you're trying to get across in a tattoo ends up looking significant enough for it to hold up over the long run, and also just to achieve balance in the design. So if you're going to do a cute little effect like that, make it a little bigger, make it a significant part of it, even if it wouldn't be that large in real life. And then as far as the whiskers go, I like them because the approach is really clever. The way that you've approached doing this white in here, this area of white, and then as that progresses, those kind of close up and they turn black at the same transition point as all this gray is. What I would say though is I would continue the white past the transition point of where the black changes. So I would actually move it probably more out here. So let's make a little adjustment. Get this a lot smaller. I would probably take the white almost pretty much all the way out until the whiskers start separating from the rest of the body, or from the edge of the head. I mean, you get what I mean. Okay. See, that ends up kind of putting that together a little better. Part of this too, in doing that, is accommodating for the fact that if you were to tattoo this, your lines are going to get thicker as they age. So if you leave these little tiny areas like that, these little slivers of white, they're going to close up some, like that area. That's going to close up some as the black ages. So just so you know, that's always a good idea to leave those a little larger. The other thing, I feel like these bases of the whiskers get a little bit too close in there. Oops. Let's just color these in white to see how that looks. Even just pulling that middle one out like that, I like that better. I actually feel like that serves us well because that gives you this kind of bigger area right in here of white. So you have this whole nice kind of area of very light tones combined with the eyes, which are going to be a natural focal point. And then you have these really nice, big, solid black areas. This was already a pretty strong design to start with, and we just ended up making it like that much stronger, essentially. So, great job. All right, next. Here, if you want to see the changes and edits real quick. Boom, boom. Again, boom, 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 boom. Okay. All right, clown lady. My impression, she has an attractive silhouette. The shape of the whole thing's nice. The way you did the eyebrows are really cool. She's got a cute look to her. I normally, whenever I draw women, a lot of the time I do these little divots on the edge, but I feel like with the look of her being very like kind of brash looking, not having those there and actually having those end on those lines and almost having it look like makeup accentuating her kind of scowl sort of works for the whole design. You do lose form in your hair that you have going on. One, the basically like it's an issue with the way that it's shaded. These areas in here work with the black shading going all the way to the tips in this little area on each of these. Because of the fact that those tips are separated, they're not overlapping with anything. Where you have that going on in here, that really confuses the eye of what's going on in this area. So you can accomplish this in one of two ways. One is what we did before with the eyes on the cat, which is to, again, you know what, let's do these in this color. Okay. Which is to essentially leave ourselves some open skin around these. That would be one way to approach that. If you are going to do that, though, that really kind of sticks out compared to the rest of these, so you kind of have to keep that approach the rest of the way. Because again, if we end up, especially when we're working in traditional and we have things that are done in this kind of folky sort of style, if we make a decision to approach something a certain way in an element in the design, we should really repeat that amongst all of the same element within the design. It means that we've put forethought into it, and just organizes things. It makes it look proper. So that we're not separating that, we could... You could still end these so that they're not really... That's one way to do it if you still wanted to maintain kind of a black there, with that going around the whole thing. That's one way you could do it. Another way, real quick, that I can show you, we'll get rid of that, create a new layer real quick, would be to leave all of the lower hair as is, and then just have the upper hair kind of follow different rules, since it's kind of sticking out compared to the rest of it, and they're kind of coming to the forefront. To Come back to the black here. Let's do this. I would probably shade it this way. So that we leave an under. This is going to be rough, but it's just going to kind of give an indication. Okay. And then this would need to get dark in order to give this something to sit against. You could do something along those lines. I don't, truthfully, like, I don't genuinely love that. I would probably just change the way that the top of the hair was. If I had to shade it something like this, I would go with the second, or with the original thing that I did. So that works. That ends up creating form in it. You might also, just in this overlap, kind of give a little... Give a little bit of an open skin highlight there. There we go. Okay. And then same thing, you lose the outer form in the eyes. You could approach this, again, in two different ways. You could end up, again, just stroking the whole thing. I actually do this pretty regularly. If you look at my work with ladyheads, where the eyes overlap with the hair, where I have these little wingtip eyelashes, I will actually just, I won't shade all the way up to the eyelashes themselves. Funny enough, I feel like it's something that I kind of took on from seeing anime, because that's how they approach like dealing with eyes and eyelashes and stuff, is they'll just show them through the hair. But you could approach it something like that. Alternatively, too, you could kind of have that area where it overlaps with the hair have open skin around that, but then the areas where, let's get that, the areas where it is here with the overlapping with the other lashes just with her skin, maybe you don't take that stuff all the way to black. Maybe we just go to a medium gray. Oop. Maybe we just go down to a medium gray like that. This is probably what I would do, because that keeps us from doing any black shading in the face, which I feel like ends up making that a stronger contrast with the rest of the image. The other thing that I would say is I really don't think you need a darker form of red in the edges of the hat. I think that unless this design was huge, you just really don't need that much within that. Just a flat red would end up making that stronger, and again would make it kind of a bolder, kind of higher contrast with it. The other thing that I would say is to kind of achieve a little bit more of the idea of form with the hat is that you had some stars come off of the edge there. Just some kind of implying that there's some other stars going on. I don't know exactly where I would place them, but something along those lines. So yeah, those are the main things that I would say with that. I'm not going to flatten out the hat. I just think you should do that within the design. These I also appreciate the fact that these are actually designs rather than tattoos, because they are things that she could make these changes to kind of learn and play with these. now that I added that black, I don't want to take that. There we go. Okay. So those are the sorts of changes that I made. Let's look at that versus the original. There we go. Boom. Okay. Looking at that small too, I feel like you wouldn't even need to do that as far, because that black would end up, okay, there we go. Oh, what I was going to say, where that little open scan highlight, not taking that all the way to where it hits the face, ends up making a nice kind of area of black framing the face. Again, it's just compositional stuff. It ends up just looking good. And then the next one, here's, so we have this lady with these flowers. Again, she's approached in a really cute manner. Maddie knows how to draw a face, obviously. I like how she's stylized. I like how the lips are kind of over accentuated, like the shape of them. The eyes are also like kind of over accentuated and larger than life. The tattoo as a whole, it's a really good silhouette. My biggest theme with it, the initial thing that sticks out to me, is the hair needs more interior lines. Let's make a smooth line. Unless this tattoo was done like tiny, it would need to at least have that many lines to look correct. You could even probably stand to have a couple more in the top area, more evenly spaced than these are, obviously. But see, that already kind of gives a little bit more to it. The other thing too, I would probably this if this was an actual person, she would have to have kind of a neck coming here. So aside from having like an actual indication of like some kind of line of having a neck, because I wouldn't suggest that, she feels like she would need more hair in order to cover up where that neck portion would be. So you could stand to, let's use the warp tool to, you could stand to kind of bring this hair out more than what it is. Perhaps something like that. Yeah, maybe something along those lines. You still have a pretty nice silhouette going on there if we do that. Maybe something like that. Okay, anyways. But we are going to, you know what, let me just copy this. There we go. So we have, okay. So yeah, something along those lines, so that we can accommodate for where that, where the neck would be. And then my other thought is the flowers. These leaves, the flowers are great, by the way. The size of them in relation to the entire rest of the piece is good. I do like the idea of taking a couple leaves here. So let's duplicate that. Maybe putting one there. Let's duplicate another. Maybe put in like a little small one there. And then maybe one more. Like I said, I'm just doing these off the cuff, so this will probably be a little... I wouldn't necessarily put these in the exact places that they are, but this way we've got something to look at to get kind of the idea of what I'm talking about. And this one. Okay. Okay, the purposes of that is it just gives us a little bit of overlap with these and breaks up a little bit of these big areas of black. Speaking of that, since we changed that hair, those would, this would obviously kind of come back up. Okay, something along those lines. But having some of the leaves that kind of dive into the hair give the flowers a little bit more form, and it also kind of breaks up a little bit of the black that's going on. And then same kind of thing before with the eyes. You lose kind of the outline of the eyes with what's going on in that. Again, I would leave open skin around at least the tip of that, and then I would only go to a medium gray. With your shading above the eyelid. Even that's probably a little bit too dark, but there we go. Because truthfully, when you're doing so much hard black within a design, you don't need to go all the way to black above your eyelids like that. Okay. My last thing, I'm not going to change it, but I just wanted to talk about it for a minute. It's this area within here where you have the shoulder. The fact that you made this symmetrical really isn't working for it. It's kind of one of those things, like if just a random person, like if you were to ask your mom or something like, what do you think of this design? They may not read that as a shoulder. They'd be like, oh yeah, I really like this design, but why does she have that weird shell thing in the middle, in the front of her face? So one of the things that we can do to kind of help alleviate that is to imagine how that shoulder would interact with her, with what the rest of her body would be doing. That shape would actually be more, if we were to kind of like extend like what her whole body would be like, you'd have like her shoulder, that would lead to her arm. Her neck would be like this. So then that leads us to a shape that then is actually a lot more like this. So you could end up taking those. You know what? I can use the warp tool to mess around with this a little bit to actually show you. Thanks, warp tool. Thank you so much, Procreate, for creating this little fun effect. What? So yeah, instantly you end up having something more like that. And that really mates that read as a shoulder, like pretty much immediately. Okay, so those are the changes that I would suggest. So let's take a look at that. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated to show you the difference. Oh, you know what? Let me flatten this. There we go. And we'll just put that there. Okay, so we'll go from that to that. 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 All right, we got one last one. This one's really short. Just got these little vampire lips. I like this design. It's cool. It's very modern and simple. Nice for a little tattoo. Strangely enough, it would be also kind of cool if it was done large, especially if it's done in this very flat kind of shading style. So my main things with it are just this little area. This gray shading that you've got going on in here. Damn it. There we go. This gray shading that you have going on in here on the edges of the teeth work well in something like a digital design to get across the idea that these teeth have form, but that's not really doable in a tattoo unless it's large. So I would drop that entirely and just use white. Just let those babies be open skin. That's all you need. Please don't shade the edges of those. It'll just end up making them where they are less impactful in the tattoo. So I would leave those there. And then the other thing is the blood drops. My theme with the blood drops is they feel like they need to be one of two things. They feel like they either need to be let's give ourselves a white background here. Okay. They either need to be both placed underneath the teeth, so it has purpose behind. They don't have to be perfectly spaced, but they do need to both kind of go in there because there needs to be some purpose for the fact that you're only doing two. Because the brain wants to end up making them as a pair and viewing them as a pair. So the fact that they are placed like this makes it seem either that the that they're improperly placed, or it seems like there should be like you're missing one. So we could do this, where we have them kind of placed both underneath there, or we could also copy and paste. You know what? Let's get close in there. Okay. That's another alternative option that you could end up doing. Or it doesn't even have to line up. That could line up like that. That works as well. Alternatively, if you placed this and chose to place that diagonally on the skin, you could also have both of these where they are actually pointing downward. Accounting for actual gravity. That's another possibility. So I think after looking at those, my favorite option is literally just to have that move there. I like that. So either that, actually I also like the, I feel like that actually works really well too. So those are my thoughts. Great job on these, and I'm really happy that you sent them to me. Like I said, you have really good design skills so far, and a lot of it is just about tweaking things, especially keeping in mind something that's going to be a tattoo as opposed to digital art. Thanks so much. Thank you to everybody for watching this, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.